Hello folks and welcome. So for you fan of MX, I have something for you that has to do with file sharing. I will be talking mostly about Samba. Toward the latter part of the video, I will touch upon using SSH because I'm also using a headless server, MX 23.5 also, standard version, versus this one is the Advanced Hardware Support Edition using a 6.12 series kernel. So what I have in mind for you today, I'll just give you the lay of the land, is I have a couple of shares that are colored, and we have computers. Now, Samba is generally used for mixed environments, possibly Microsoft and Linux. Now, in my case, since my channel's name is Linux for Seniors, but Linux is for all ages, I do mostly just Linux videos. So I have one Linux Mint 22, that's a Mate desktop, and two MX Xfce desktops. This one here is a headless server. It means it doesn't have a keyboard or mouse or even monitor. I configure those and then I disconnect and just leave the power on. Then I can use SSH to do other kind of stuff, or I can use SFTP. But in either case, I'll keep moving. This one is a Cinnamon desktop, and sometimes when we're sharing files, we log in as anonymous and we can't create things, or even delete things. So if I try to create a folder on that system, for instance, permission denied. And this is very common. So we can think about talking about that. All of these have permissions of read-write, but this folder and that folder are only read-only online, even with the permissions set this way. And none of them have this symbol on. So how am I doing this? Well, it's all going to be done through one configuration file called smb.conf, located in your etc. Samba folder. If you want to learn how to do all this kind of stuff, or you want some extra tips, if you already know partial, I have different ways of doing stuff. All right, filming in 1080, welcome. Subscription key is in the corner, yellow brackets with a person, somewhere around 40 minutes. So I do recommend subscription if you don't have time to watch it in one sitting. So I'm going to first talk about software, then we can talk about firewalls and configurations. So head on over to your MX package installer, because this is MX, and install the Samba software. And what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to convert this machine back to standard so I can show you a couple of these things. So anyways, now that you've seen the pre-demo, this is the local machine. This is the machine that's online running also MX. It's a headless server, so they have different share points, as you can see. But a lot of times when you install Samba, and you think you got it working, you'll also see a user in here called nobody. I'm going to show you how you can get rid of that so you don't see that online. And at the same time talk about shares and firewalls. And hopefully you'll get some entertainment out of this. So the first thing I'm going to do is convert this right back to default. So I'm going to go into the etc. directory and hit an S and find Samba, and talk about these files. Now, before you convert any of these files, especially that one, my recommendation is to copy it. And a good place maybe would be your documents, Samba back folder, and dump it in there for backup purposes. Okay, so again, file system, etc., Samba folder or directory. All right, I have two of these. What I did was, this SMB back is the original file, and I edited the original file to produce this one. These are all custom parameters, and they can all be edited the same way, and or you can also think about it doing it differently. Okay, you can do a quick screenshot if you like. I'll explain this a little bit later in detail. The other file here is called SMB back, and I'll open that also in the same container, which in this case is Featherpad. That's the text editor. If I can click on the About section, my goodness, that's 3 clicks. So in this video, if you don't know too much about me, English is my second language, and I have subscribers all over planet Earth, and a lot of them don't speak full English, so I do repeat myself and slow down when I talk for emphasis, because I can appreciate that also myself when I started learning English. But I'm the type of person that demonstrate everything on my 500 videos. So this is no exception. So this is your standard SMB CONF file. I don't do anything with it. I just add a bunch of lines. So all I did was add this section. But I did put remarks on here so you can see what this is going to be doing. So I'm adding a custom command by removing the nobody entry. This will be a user that is normally displayed. All right, so let me actually go through this and let you see this before I talk about the remainder of these rules. I'm going to open this up in root mode because these files are all owned by root and you can't do any edits unless you're in root mode. Well, you can open the file and then save it later in root mode. That's certainly possible. But in this case, since I have several files, I'm going to do renames. So the current file that I'm using is currently working, right? You can see all the shares, but now I'm going to convert it back to the standard one. So I'm renaming that as, I'll call that one, 3Bs. It's just a different name. I'm going to convert this name though back to SMB because when you have SAMBA installed, it's going to look at this file. So now what you're going to see, and generally if this doesn't work, you go and log out and log back in. So now I'm going to go to the network and let you see what this local machine looks like. It has a nobody user. If I try to click on it and log in as anonymous, this will just cycle. So all of the machines I'm going to talk about today, and let me get this out of the way. I'm not going to talk about printers. My printer is network wireless driverless. Okay. One of the reasons I love this printer is because it works without me installing any printers on any system. It's always found, at least so far. Even on Microsoft Windows. I may have to use the install command on that, but it's still driverless wireless. And I can use that on Linux, Mac, and Windows, and also an iPhone. Anyways, so we're dealing with shares here today. So you don't see any shares. So this is using the standard SMB file. So I have made no changes. I installed SAMBA, and you can type in SAMBA here or SAM, and you'll find the SAMBA configuration file. Assuming that you created a folder already. So in this case, I called it share 1. And now we'll leave the permissions of read, write, read, write, read, write. It doesn't really matter. And you have the share folder over here. So whether you are trying to do it this way without the configuration, I'm going to show you what happens when you do this. Have you ever seen this error? Net user share return error 255. A lot of you folks have been looking for answers for this. I don't use that. All right, so, but here's another one that people use. And you can add users, you can do the share thing, give it a name, click the path of wherever that thing is, and then guest OK, and then the appropriate. Now I have 2 users on this machine. MX test is who we're logged into, and then Bob. And you can do the read-only, the full access, whatever. So you've done all that. You even stopped the SAMBA services, which requires a password. And then to restart it doesn't require a password, but none of this stuff is working. And you're trying to figure out why. You even went in here after you've done all that and you see this error. Okay, it doesn't matter which one of these I click. It's still going to give me that net return 255. All right, so there's a little restriction in your SMB conf file. So now I'm going to open up and let you see the edits and then reactivate this. So anytime you're doing this, you can test this on your own machine before you deem it working. So I have the nobody user. that doesn't really do me any good, and that's what other users are currently seeing. Okay, but I want to fix this where I can have my shares being visible on the network. So we're going to go into here, into the etc. folder, into the SAMBA folder, and we're going to do some edits. So before I convert this, I'm going to open up both of these files. Okay, so this is the original snb.conf file. Again, I do recommend copying that and putting a copy of it somewhere in your local folder. And that's what it looks like. The other file is this one, and we're opening it up in the same container. So again, this is Featherpad, the text editor. It's got nice colors to it, and so we'll blow that up. So the bottom half of this file is exactly the same as in here. And you can see the first remarks up here at the top. And then it starts with the next session and so forth. I added all of these manually. There are many ways of doing this. Many ways of doing this. This is just my way. So I added the comment custom command by removing the nobody entry. And this is a user. So the two brackets are on the side highlighted currently. And you can find that close to your enter key. So type in the nobody user. Browsable, lowercase, space, equals no. That means that when the other people are browsing your shares, they won't see the nobody user, if you want to remove that. So the next section we're going to talk about is you created these folders already. All right, so we are going to create them out of order or in order. It doesn't matter. So we do the same thing, except the open brackets on this one are considered a share name. You can also call these folders something else. That's fine. You can call it my stuff if you like. I generally recommend no spaces in them though. All right, and try to make your labels short. It's easier for everybody. Keep in mind there are other computers trying to look at your files if you're doing sharing. So share 2 is this one. Now this one here, to give you the definition of this, has permissions of read, write, read, write, read, write for our local machine. However, when you're online, after you activate this file, I told it to say no. All right. So the path space equals, where is it located? Well, you can see that it says home MX test and the name of the SharePoint. The writable space equals no means that's a read-only file now. Even though the permissions are set for others, full, I overwrite that in SAMBA. Keep in mind, people are connecting. This is local machine, but other people are connecting to the share. So I'm not allowing anybody to write any information to that. That means deleting folders, creating folders, and deleting files. You're not allowed to. You can only view it. So that is considered a read-only. Read-only. Guest space OK equals yes. That means guest account. And then force space user space equals MX test, the name of this user, where that is located. Generally, what I do too is, as I cheat, is I take that after I write it and I copy that and then create myself some more space. And then I use Control V to paste that. I'll give you some more space. Just don't forget to change the names. So this is how I created share 3 and share 1. And all I can do is change this part here. Clear? We all like to cheat. We don't have to continually type the same thing over and over again. That's how these boxes are created. The first one you need to make sure that it works, and then you can create more. And then you can answer the question writable or not. You can see that one says no, but this one says yes. So the yes box on share 1 is literally writable. Let me show you this on your own network after I reactivate this file, because it's still holding the old one. Remember, the old one still says nobody user and no shares. Okay, that's what this is currently using. So after I write this, I'm going to eliminate the nobody user, so it's not browsable anymore. And then share 2, share 1, and share 3. We have writable no on share 2, share 1, yes, Share 2, share 3, no. That means that read only on share 3, read only on share 2, share 1, everyone can make files. Now, let me close this for a second, and it thoroughly confused some of you. I'm going to open this from scratch. Okay? I'll blow this up for you. I'll let you look at the properties before I actually do this. They all have read-write. They all have read-write. None of them have shares. None of them. Okay, so far so good? Okay. Now I'm going to convert this. Looking for SAMBA. Root mode. I'm going to rename these things. So the current file that I'm using is standard, the one that comes with your system. This one here, I added some extra lines, as you can see. That's what I was just talking about. So again, I would recommend copying the original, just in case. But I've already done that. So now I'm going to do the rename thing. So now I'm going to convert this one now to backup. I'm not deleting it. You can type in the whole word if you like. But now that's a backup of the original SMB file. This one is the one I'm going to be using next. The one I wrote in these lines. And as soon as you do this, it should be available immediately. I don't even think you need to restart SMB, but anyways. You may sometimes just log in and out if it doesn't work. So now this new file is going to be using these other things. Tested to make sure. The nobody user is now gone. Again, I'm not going to talk about print $ because my printer is wireless and also driverless. Share 1. A login is anonymous. Let's try adding a folder. That works. Let's go on local machine. Again, we're still local. Okay, share 2. Anonymous. Trying to create a folder. Permission denied. But you remember this said full permissions. Others can read and write. No. SAMBA takes care of actually, you're doing this online. That's very different than doing it local. I'm pretending I'm logging in from another system. So share 2 does not allow me to create files. Permission denied. I can also not delete things. So if I try to actually hit the delete key on that one, it's also permission denied. Same thing with share 3. I think share 3 is also read only. Okay, keep in mind I'm logged in as anonymous, not local user. All right, so let's talk about some of the other shares here. Now that you can see the magic of this, these share points, again, you can colorize these folders. They're easy to identify. You can even log out and these will still be available on your network, providing your computer is powered up. This system here is actually running MX 23.5, also standard version Xfce software. That particular headless server, it fits in the palm of my hand. I have not only SAMBA installed on it, I have SSH server installed on it, and I also have backups for it and cron jobs installed. I can also update the software using terminal SSH a little bit later if you're curious. Yeah, I can run everything remotely. It doesn't have a monitor, doesn't have a keyboard or mouse. I set it up already. All right, so in here, I want you to be aware that when you have shares online, especially with folders like Share 1, which will allow others to add and remove things, and I'm going to do that directly here from a different computer. So if I'm looking at the sports PNG file, it's now gone because I deleted it remotely. Because Share 1, I have the authority to add and remove folders. I will now create a folder. You can see that it said untitled folder populated on the screen right here. I'm going to actually rename that, and I will call that test bunch of 8s. I'm doing this on another computer. Okay, so we have, let's do a refresh on this. Oh, there it is. Okay. Now that folder just got created. Sometimes you need to refresh the screen. So, and I'm going to delete that one now. Because I can. I have the authority to delete that. Now you can see it's gone. So even if I was logged out, since I allowed SAMBA to have anyone, even anonymous, log into my machine on Share 1 to add and remove anything in here. You've got to be careful how you do sharing. And again, it doesn't matter how I configured these. So if I decided to change the permissions properties to others, none, for instance, or MX, well, I'll leave the group as read-only. And you look at the SharePoint again, and you can see there's others, none, and MX test group only. Now, I'm not MX. So if I were to, actually, let me do it this way. I'll let you see it locally. Okay. Test 12. Is gone. It's not holding those permissions, is it? No. Because your SMB CONF file is overriding the current permissions on Share 1. Even though I have Share 1's permissions turned off for others. You remember I did that remotely. Others, it says no access. You have to be MX test or part of the group. I'm not on the other machine. Okay, but I'm still adding files in here. So I'll create a folder. You can see that untitled folder just populated. And I'll put in a whole bunch of P's in there. You see that? Yeah. So again, just be aware that when you're doing the configuration file, is the permissions are being controlled here, not here. At least for the others, for people logging into your machine. So it doesn't matter where you put this. I just wanted to emphasize that. It's kind of a strange concept to think about. So if I wanted to change that to read-only, I'd have to do it in the smb.conf file, and that can be done rather easily. So if I do it like this, all I would need to do is open this in root mode and then take Share 1 and change that to a no. Because 3 and 2 are also read-only. Share 1 is full access. If you're worried about people deleting and adding files, you want to put a no in there. That way, whatever you deposit in these folders are read-only to others, not your local machine. That part is different. Okay, so anyways, let's move on and talk a little bit about firewall rules. Firewall rules, anytime you add the word server something in it. You're adding SSH server, open SSH server. I have that on this system too. And your SAMBA file sharing. Then I recommend firewalls, even on your local networks. So what is the firewall for this MX? It is GovW. GFW stands for Graphical UFW Firewall. All right, so it's a very simple firewall. As a matter of fact, I did a video the other day for Linux Mint Firewall because it is the same one they use. All right, the only thing about this is after you have these firewalls on, sometimes these rules are not editable after you toggle the firewalls. All right, so I'm going to actually show you this says anywhere on it, but if I look at the port numbers, you can actually look at and find that information in here. But let's do this from scratch, because a lot of you people have never done this, and some people have. But anytime you have anything running for file sharing and also for like SSH secure shell, I would recommend firewalls. So generally, the color of this firewall is done with a combination of these. So I think even the public profile may be a different color. Yeah, it is. So in that other video, I talked about adding some custom profiles, and that's normally done by export and import. But we're going to stick with basics. So when I add pre-configured rules, where are these things coming from? Starting with 0, AD, and overkill. For you curious ones, they are located in here. Same folder as where your SAMBA is located, but you type in GFW on this one. In here is your app profiles starting with 0 AD and overkill. Now you know where the profiles are located. All right, you don't have to click these. There's I don't know how many are in here, probably over 100. But we're dealing with SAMBA today. So we type in SAM, and if it pops up with SAMBA, we're there. So SAMBA uses these ports, okay? Generally, when we have allow outgoing, then this direction in is sufficient. Sometimes I add both in some cases. So it's allow, in, category, all. If you need to make custom configuration, do it before you hit add. There's a key here, a key here. I'm using the pre-configured. So when I do this, it'll add 4 rules. All right, so one of the things that people may or may not understand is what IP version 4 and IP version 6 is. A lot of you folks know what your IP address of your home computer is. Generally, it's IP version 4. But this also has entries for IP version 6, so that's why that's repeated twice. Other than, if we didn't have IP version 6, you probably would only have 2 entries. So how do you read that? Well, if I'm doing the non-highlighted one, number 1, port 137 and 138 UDP, allow, in, because we have allow out. Port 139, 445 TCP, allow in. Then the entries are repeated for version 6. So 4 SAMBA rules. If you installed SSH server, Open SSH server, I would highly recommend that you also install this. This is generally port 22. If you need to reconfigure the port, do so. Same deals. This will only be 2 rules if I leave the in. If I do both, it'll be 4. All right, so I'm going to close that now. So generally, before you toggle this firewall, you can probably make some changes. But once you toggle it, they'll be locked. All right, so I basically have 1, 2, 3, 4 SAMBA rules and 2 SSH rules. TCP IP, or version 4, version 6. TCP, port 22 on both of them. Toggling the entry changes that to allow anywhere. Now you click that and it says immutable rule. Common stuff. Toggling the firewall. All right, so both I'm allowing SAMBA and SSH. So that's firewalls. Earlier I mentioned that I installed MX on a headless server. This computer fits in the palm of my hand. It's a low resource computer, and MX Xfce desktops are great for doing that. You got an old computer you want to repurpose for like a file server. So MX99 has the same operating system as this machine, MX23.5, but it's the standard version because that's all I needed. I installed SSH server and SAMBA so I can do file sharing. Okay, I also installed a firewall, same thing, GovW. I installed a couple of provisions to make backups in there, automatic, using cron jobs, and some of you folks know what that is. I also have one that can use tar, tape archive, and I can also run remote commands because I unplugged the keyboard and mouse and monitor from that headless server. So I can just use terminal or file manager Thunar to log into that machine. If I'm using Thunar, I will be SFTP in there, Secure File Transfer Protocol. But if I need to run commands, I do it out of terminal. So if you've never done this before, you can install, again, the same thing on any of these machines if you install OpenSSH. They usually use security certificates. So not big enough? Okay, let me make this bigger. Maybe you've seen me use this command before. The big F Xfce strips out personal info. MX likes to use that one. That's okay. We can use, there's lots of derivatives with that command. So I'm just giving you what's in the box. On this machine, it's using a 6.12 series Linux kernel, and this is using an AMD Ryzen 5 core. Just as basic information. Another tab. SSH, name of the user on that system. I hit my caps lock by accident. That's what happens when you try to type in a hurry. This is for my local system, so these do not exist on the internet. So don't bother. Let's try that again. All right, so what, instead of putting the behind the @ symbol, instead of putting the IP address, I'm putting the name of the computer.local. So what computer is that? It's this one that I was just referring to, this MX99 headless computer. It's running those two shares. I've already accepted the security certificate, and where is that located? On MX, it's actually located in your home folder, in here. The known host file is a cryptic looking file, and for you folks that like to play and replace your operating systems constantly with the same computer, just keep in mind sometimes if you're SSHing into the same machine, it's holding on to the old security certificates. All right, a little too much information maybe. Let me finish this out. I'm going to put in the password. You don't see me typing anything. Now I'm logged into that other machine, INXI. And stripping out, oops, I don't know why I hit the M there. Trying to type too fast. I'm at 33 minutes, and hopefully you got enough time to watch the remainder. So that one has 8 gigs of RAM, and that one is running the other version of MX23.5, which is the 6.1 series normal kernel. Because this is a very small computer, very low resource computer. It's a dual core Intel Celeron, as you can see. And but more importantly, I can do all kinds of things using terminal commands. So just to give you an example, I can just look at the drives real quick, and it will tell me what percentage of root is. I can do remote backups. I can let you look at my history file on this because these are all just demo machines. But I can run a sudo apt update with that command there to, let me try that again, to do an update. I can run the top command, as you can see I've done many times. And some of you more advanced folks know what that is. And then you can also run tar backups. And anyways, So if you've never used the host-i command, I'm going to copy it. There's the IP address of that machine. So the reason that I didn't use that when I logged in, I used tman mx99.local, so I don't have to type in that, and that generally works. Here's a typical IP version 6 address. Now you can see that's quite a bit different. Try to remember that. But I can do all kinds of things, including reboots. As a matter of fact, there should be a reboot command in here somewhere. I was doing lots of tests on that thing earlier. Oh, here it is. Here's a reboot command for you. So I can remote reboot that machine. Again, it doesn't have a keyboard and mouse, but it does reboot and come back, and I can do that kind of stuff. So there's all kinds of things you can do with running commands using SSH. There's also commands that you can run here in the graphical. So I can also highlight this. Let me get rid of the hidden files in here. I don't think you need to see that anymore. And I'm going to actually use SSH instead of SFTP. And you will see that being converted. I do things a little differently than most. So tman1 at mx99.local, if I type it in correctly. If that was the first time that I needed a security certificate, I would answer yes, but it's now asking me for a password. So I just need the password of that user. And I have now full system going full screen. And more importantly, I can also take a look at the other folders this way. So that one there is using an actual backup using cron. A lot of people that run servers use that, and some of you folks that do understand that. And generally, it's a good place to store it in your root folder, and your cron jobs in your OPT. There's the script for it. Anyways, you can see that I can see this graphically. I can also see the user's home folder, and more importantly, the share points. I see a lot more information than I did just by logging in as an anonymous user, because I can also transfer files from here. I don't know what this user has, and I'm doing this locally. Now you can see SFTP here. You remember I started with logging in as SSH. So pulling that down for a second. It's a Star Wars background. I just pulled that directly out of the pictures folder on that unit. That unit has no keyboard, has no monitor, and basically it just sits there, dishing out files. So using the regular method of SAMBA, I can also click this way, open up a SharePoint as anonymous on that system, and then do a bookmark. So that is now SMB instead of SFTP. Am I allowed to? Let's find out. Am I allowed to create? Yes. Whenever you do that again, be careful, because people can also delete files. Okay. I will log into that system on a remote so you can actually see this. I'll have to update the screen, but I am going to use my laptop, log into MX99, and we're at what share? Share 1. I'll log in as anonymous, and I'm going to create a folder, and let's call it test 4. And we just need to do a refresh. There's test 4 right there. I just created that folder on MX99 from this system here. And you're viewing it through this system, which is MX. MX99 is this, not this machine. This is this machine. You can find that out by your terminal box. Hopefully I didn't confuse you. But in either case, you can see you can do a lot of magic when you're using SSH, SFTP, and SAMBA for general file sharing. And again, with the MX computer, editing your smb.conf file, which is located where again? In your etc. SAMBA folder, is probably the best method of doing this. All you need to do is edit that file, and you can throw in your entries. And I will now give you an opportunity to make a screenshot if you like. There are many ways to write this. Some people may have a simpler way, but I wrote it in a way that most people can understand it. So the 2 lines at the top to start with the pound symbol or the hash are just descriptions. The custom command for removing the nobody entry when you're browsing on your local network is done with 2 commands. The shares are added in this way, and you can make your shares writable or not. The shares, if they're writable, yes, that means everybody has access rights. When they're writable, no, that means read only. And that can be done rather easily. Pause the screen, screenshot. 41 minutes. I think I'm going to stop and say, check out the rest of my videos. I have over 500. Thank you for watching.